Good morning, everyone. Sorry that we are starting a little bit late for technical reasons. We're here today broadcasting from the shortcut. It's the day before Slush. So today we're going to be talking about Ask Me Anything about Slush. Today we have as guest Andreas Saari, who is our board member at the shortcut, but also he is CEO at the 280 company, and what is interesting for us today, former CEO of Slush. So we will be asking all of our pending questions to Andreas. And a couple of words about the shortcut. So the shortcut is a non-profit organization that is bridging the gap between job seekers and companies in Finland. Our community is mainly working in English. This is why our live today is in English. And we have events and trainings that help people find a job in Finland or start a meaningful career. This is Ask Me Anything. So the point of the live is that you post questions in the chat and we answer them. But I do have some prepared questions from my side too, so I will start with those. First and foremost, Andreas, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your current work and also at your previous work at Slush.
Hey everyone, good to be here, and it's exciting to be in the Slush week. For me, it's the first time being actually going to Slush without being part of organizing it, so it's going to be an entirely new experience for me. So let's see how that goes. My name is Andreas. I'm born and raised in Finland. I've lived abroad for a short amount of time during high school, but after that, not so much. But let's see where I'm relocating within a couple of years. I'm an entrepreneur. I studied industrial engineering and management at Aalto. I was involved in Slush since 2015 in the full-time team. I was doing a bunch of things within the organization. I was running startup operations, investor operations program, and then 2 years as CEO. And in the meantime, I got more interested in venture capital. So we started a small student-run venture capital fund of roughly 1.5 million euros with some friends of mine. We just raised the money. We didn't have any money ourselves, so we raised it from successful investors and entrepreneurs here locally. The organization is still running and making investment, and they're now raising their second fund. I'm not operationally involved, thanks to other projects after that, but sitting on the board of that. And after Slush, I have moved on to building a climate company. I'm actually transitioning. We are transforming our company into another company right now, but it's still within the space of utilizing atmospheric carbon dioxide and turning it into valuable products. So essentially trying to create a scalable business model and an actual business for taking the surplus CO2 that we have in the atmosphere and kind of creating useful things out of it. It's early days for us. We're just closing our seed round. The technical reasons for this broadcast starting late was me running late because I was just in an investor meeting of our potential lead investors. I just had to say a couple of last words. So that was the reason. That, I think, is a good short intro before I spend too much time on myself.
Very happy to have you here. Also, you're the first member of the board of the shortcut that we have on our events, so that's a big honor for us. So maybe a few words about your work at Slush also, because now it's like I was working now to work through the Sanomatalo, and it's like everywhere is like Slush, and the badges are being prepared. Later today we're gonna go pick up our badges. So a little bit about Slush and how you end up there, and how was it in your time?
Yeah, it's a funny story. I ended up first there as a volunteer. Sometime in the fall of 2014, I saw someone wearing a Slush hat, and I thought, that's a nice hat, but I didn't do anything about it. And literally 2 days after, one of my best friends at university asked me if I had heard about this thing called Slush, which was essentially a celebration of entrepreneurship in Finland, which sounded against all the odds. So I got interested, and I did end up serving as a volunteer. I was running a small badge claim team. So literally one of those things where you go and pick up your badge when you're going to the event. And after that, even though I had absolutely zero experience in startups or anything like that, the team took a bet on me for some still inexplicable reason, and I ended up running the startup operations, and then stayed on in the organization doing many different roles. First, trying to fill the hole with startups, then the following year with investors, and then being part of designing what happens on stage. And then obviously as CEO, you're doing kind of everything and nothing at the same time. Your main responsibility is building the team and making sure that the event can happen and that everything goes well. But the good thing is that there has been such a demand for people to work at Slush, or a large supply of people who want to work within the organization, that it's been always fairly easy to build an excellent team, which means that at the end, at least during the second year, I was incredibly confused just a couple of days before the event because I felt like I didn't have much to do, which feels terrible because you're used to this huge rush and wanting to deliver things on the last minutes. But it went well. So I don't know. Maybe you can point me to a specific area within that work that I can talk more about.
Yeah, actually, we have questions, and they might sound pretty easy, but for many in our community, because we're an international community, many are newcomers. Many people have never been to Slush, so some of the questions are pretty easy. So, for example, maybe like one of the most kind of difficult things after almost 2 years in pandemic is seeing people again and networking live again. We are not used to it anymore. So how to structure your visit? Like everyone is busy, everyone running to their own meetings. How to make sure you get meaningful connections and at the same time don't spend too much time with those who are not worth the time for you. Oi, you muted.
Sorry about that. That's a rookie mistake. Yeah, I think one of the things to keep in mind is that you never know who turns out to be valuable, even if they don't seem valuable on the surface. So once you start a conversation with someone and you really get to know them, you are very likely to discover something that, if you go deep enough and ask enough many questions, you will discover something that is useful or at least interesting for you. So really just relying on serendipity while you're at the event and making sure that you hang out in places where people hang out. That's a great starting point. Now, obviously, the more you have planned your days in advance and booked meetings in advance, the greater chances you have on delivering on whatever goal you have set for yourself before the event. If you are a startup, one of the best areas to hang out is the meeting area, because that's where you find a lot of other founders and investors, and you can just randomly meet incredibly relevant people, and there are countless stories where people have just randomly bumped into an investor while queuing up for coffee at the venue, and then they started a conversation and that ended up in a fundraise. So really, like finding those hotspots where you have a lot of entrepreneurs and investors, I think is a great place, depending on what you want. Of course, you might need something else than those things. The good thing about this year is that it's less people and more startups and investors, if those are the areas or kind of the groups that you're most interested in. So that's a good starting point. But really, I would encourage having a bit of a plan ahead of time. So now you still have one day to make your plan and schedule some meetings. Do make those, and then in between those meetings, leave enough room for that meeting running over time, or that person recommending you to meet some other person as well, so that you can act on opportunities that spring up. I think that's a good idea. And yeah, definitely take use of all the side events, because that's a good way to find people that are more targeted within your own area of interest or space. You can sign up for I think you have to sign up to most side events ahead of time, but some you can just walk into, and if you have a Slush pass, you get access to most of them.
Yes, actually, very good topic about the side events. The shortcut, because we are a sister organization to Slush and to Maria01, all owned by the Startup Foundation. We have quite a lot going on here also. So Maria01, for example, has a get together tonight, and we at the shortcut, we have two side events tomorrow. Actually, one is at 12 with the city of Helsinki, Newco, and then the other one is at 6 with Nordic Scalers. So still, I think there are places in both. So if you're listening to this, is a good time to head to the shortcut.org and sign in. How about you, Andreas? Have you participated, organized in any side events? Can you recommend something? I know it's been already going. They always say that Slush starts like before, so it's already been going for a while.
Yeah, we have a lot of people are flying in since today, even on the weekend. So there's really a high concentration of very interesting people in the city right now. Now, of course, Corona makes things a little bit tricky, so you have less of the opportunities that are usually there in terms of just hanging out in places and having a lot of people in the same place. In the past, obviously, I've always been on the side of organizing the whole event and being part of organizing some side events. So that I definitely do have experience in. My plan this year mostly consists of small dinners and meetings. That's mainly because we're fundraising and we're talking to a bunch of investors, and we've just scheduled a lot of things ahead of time with people that we knew are going to be in town. Now, of course, we have a home turf advantage, and we were in contact. I'm actually in contact with most of the investors thanks to Slush or the past years of work at Slush. So it's translated into a nice payout, at least at this point. In terms of other recommendations, depending on what your current role is and what you're after, I think the startup day or founders day has always been a great event. I think many of the side events, there's really a large enough number of them so that no matter what you're interested in, you will find something useful for sure. But for that, you really just have to do your own research and know what you want, and then seek out those events. Now, of course, at this time, it might be that many of the side events, I don't know now I'm just guessing, it might be that many of the side events are already over or fully booked if they have a person limit that they do usually have. And I'm imagining that especially on a Corona year, you would definitely have a people limit, but people also do cancel last minute. So even if you don't get a spot in some of the side events, it might make sense to just show up and ask if they have any extra spaces. But it's better to book in advance.
Right. Next question is kind of a tricky one. Our community consists of kind of two parts. So one part are international job seekers who are here in Finland and are trying to pursue meaningful career, and then the other one are people who followed entrepreneurship path, be it startup or more traditional businesses. So what would you say could be a different approach? For example, if you're going to Slush as a job seeker, which is the case for some of our community, how would you approach? So if you don't need to pitch your company, but you are actually looking for a team to join, how would you present yourself in a professional way?
Yeah, I think the best thing for you to do is to find a place where startups are gathered. One of the things is to look at the stage program, and I know there's a pitching contest, and hanging out near the backstage entrances where people go to backstage when they go pitching and come out of pitching is a good place to kind of wait for people to emerge. Obviously, you have to have done your research ahead of time, so you know how people look, so you're approaching the right person. But you can capitalize on a lot of opportunities by just knowing where a company that you're interested in will be at what time in the event. Now, I think at least some startups, especially ones that have scaled up a bit further, will have an actual physical presence at the event, a booth of sorts. Those are always great places to go because the companies are there and are visible for a reason. Usually, they are hiring a lot of people, especially if they're growing fast. So I think that is as good of a way into the organization as any. In terms of how to present yourself, I think people respond if you're talking to a founder of a company. It's good to know obviously what industry the company is in and how your own personal experience is relevant to that industry or what the company might be solving right now. If you know roughly what industry the company is in and what scale they are at, say a company that has just raised a seed round is probably still at a point where they are hiring mostly people with at least a generalist side to them, so that they can be flexible and fulfill multiple kinds of roles. If you have a more specific skill set, it might make more sense to approach a company that is a little bit later on. Maybe they have raised their Series A. If they're following the traditional venture funding cycle, many companies might not do that. So a company that, I don't know, has raised at least 5 million in funding, or has at least 1 million in revenue, if you can find these numbers, you can actually find out a lot about different companies online just by researching and digging into different kinds of databases like PitchBook or Crunchbase. That gives you a lot of insight into where the companies are at in their life cycle, and just try to pick out the parts from your experience that are relevant to that exact company, their industry, and their stage. Many companies also, if you just go onto their website, they list their job openings, so you can see what positions they are hiring for, and then you can tailor your presentation of yourself to a particular role that you know that the company is hiring for.
Yes, sounds good. Hope everyone's taking notes of this. We have a question coming up. I'm going to show on the screen. So Jessie is my colleague here at the Shortcut. She's watching us. Jessie is curious if you are going to Slush this year, and of course, how did you plan differently this year compared to pre-corona years? So learning from the best. We're going tomorrow too. So.
Yeah, I'm going to Slush. Yes, I have a startup ticket, which is really fun. And I said it's the first time I'm going as a non-organizer. So for me, the planning is very different altogether. If I'm trying to think of specific corona-related plans or changes in my plans, I'm maybe more focused on private small events. Some of them are outside the venue and not at the venue itself. That's maybe the most relevant corona-related difference in my approach. Otherwise, I might have spent more time, or like the whole 2 days, just at the event venue and have everything there. But now I'm not only there.
Yeah. Speaking about the venue itself, also for those who are going for the first time, Messukeskus is a huge place. How to orient there, and how to I'm sure it's going to be well organized there, but what would your like in and out tips would be as a person who has been in and out?
Now I have to admit that I'm not I don't know if there's an app. I think there's an event app, which usually includes indoor navigation. That is definitely smart to take use of. And once you get to the venue, we have always taken a lot of pride in having clear signs at the venue that would easily show you kind of once you're on the floor, because it is a little bit confusing. It's dark and it's hazy and it's a little bit maze-like. So you really have to know where you're going, and then you have to find the signs. I think the indoor navigation app has been the best help for me, at least in the past. And otherwise, just ask someone. If you find those Slush volunteers, you will definitely recognize them by the clothes that they're wearing. They are always happy to help.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So after we do all our side events tomorrow, then we had at least my colleagues might be earlier. Then next question, also someone asked me when I was preparing this session a little bit about the kind of a personal branding. So is it good to what are like the ways for you to stand out? Of course, you can have a T-shirt with your company name or a hoodie or something like that. But what could be other ways? Like, is there a way to kind of to visually stand out in the event? And yeah,
I think you can utilize these traditional party tricks. You can have a funny hat that always works as a good icebreaker. But then there's like, depending on the type of people that you want to attract attention from, you either want to dress very professionally, or then you want to dress just so that you stand out. But I think that depends on your goals. Like if you, for example, say if I was looking to raise money, I might not dress up as a clown. I might kind of try to be not too formal, because no one is very formal at Slush. You will probably fit in the best if you're just wearing a black hoodie, to be honest, and jeans, no matter your gender. That's probably going to be the go-to clothing for many. But just clothe. Yeah, actually, I think the best advice that I can give is put on clothing where you feel most like yourself, and where that makes you feel confident and comfortable. Confidence is always what works in any interpersonal situation. So as long as you're confident and kind of happy about yourself, and trust your own self, it's going to be great. And the clothing is just going to be a side part. And yeah, standing out in other ways, in like making a huge promotion or other cheap tricks like that, I don't think that's a great idea. It's really good to just approach people as people politely, ask them if they have time, or ask them a very interesting question that makes them stop. That's actually that's a fun thing that usually works pretty well. One of my favorite questions that I always like to ask people that I don't know is, if they would write a book, what would they write about? Because that usually gives, then the person starts opening up about things that they really care about. Some people will write about their own lives. Some people will write about their most passionate interest that they have. It's a fun little hack in any kind of dinner conversation or one-to-one meeting.
Right. Great advice. I also taking notes for myself for tomorrow. A couple of more questions I have left. We're almost out of time, but maybe one. So how to make sure to deliver results? So say you haven't booked meetings in advance, or you're not sure with how. There's a matchmaking tool, of course, but what do you use, for example, to book meetings and like deliver tangible, because it's easy to talk with people at the event, but it's not so easy to remember with whom you talked and how to follow up. What are your tips and tricks on that?
Actually, one of the keywords that you said in there was follow up. Very few, like you would be shocked at how few people, when you have met someone, actually do follow up. Just simply the act of following up makes you stand out from the crowd. So that's really an important thing. If you meet someone who you're really interested in continuing the conversation with, ask if you can get their contact details, either a business card, or you ask them to type in their email into your inbox so that you can just send a quick note right away. That's the best way, I think. When it comes to delivering at the event, obviously you need to know what you want to deliver on. So you need to have set goals for yourself. If you want to raise funding, you want to meet investors or other founders who can point you to investors. If you want to hire people, you need to know who you're hiring and where you find those types of people. It's I think the most important part is going through the work of really figuring out what you need. That's usually the trickiest part, rather than the actual work itself. So that's that. What do I use personally? I don't know if this is translatable to everyone, because I have a big home turf advantage, and I know many people who are in town anyway. So I'm just reaching out to friends who recommend other people to meet mostly. So I'm using mostly just personal contacts and email and text messages, really. But I think if those options were not available for me, I would definitely use the matchmaking tool. And now, since my schedule is already packed, I don't need to do anything more. I don't need to do that, but if it wasn't, I would probably use that.
Yes, we have 2 more minutes. Very last question I'm going to ask you is what are you looking forward most to for the Slush? Is it maybe some keynote? Is it the experience, meeting friends? What is it for you personally?
For me personally, if I answer from a personal perspective, it is meeting friends. There are many people who are I have met over the years who are not in Helsinki at other times of the year, but only at Slush. So for me, it's really getting to catch up with those people. And obviously, due to Corona, there hasn't been as much travel, so you haven't been able to meet those people in other places either. So that is very genuinely the thing that I'm looking forward to the most. Now, when it comes to the program, I think the team has done a pretty amazing job, especially given the whole global situation, and people have had a hard time committing to stuff. So I think it's worth taking the most out of it. But again, kind of the same thing goes there, that you have to know what you want. And then, of course, the tricky thing, I'm going to contradict myself right away, saying that, yes, you have to know what you want. But then again, it's also smart to leave room for serendipity. So you have to know what you want, and maybe you schedule certain things to make sure that you deliver on what you really want. And then the rest you leave open for positive surprises and encounters.
Yeah. Still one question in the chat, maybe super quickly about thank you for the backstage hunting life hack. And is printing out CV something you would do?
I would not do that, but I would not have even thought about that, actually. So I would not tell you a flat out, no, don't do that. But I think most people are going to be more annoyed at someone shoving a paper into their hands without them asking than not. So I think the smarter way is to approach electronically. Just ask a person to type in their email on your phone, or ask them of their email, and then you follow up with an electronic version of your CV. That's what I would do.
Yes. Yeah, it's 10 o'clock and we are going to let Andreas go. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're looking forward to Slush. We hope you have a great experience too this year. And we are looking ourselves forward to meeting many people and finally live event happening. Have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching us today, and see you at Slush.
Thanks for having me. Have a great Slush.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.